So you just bought 7 Days to Die and you spawned in and were immediately mauled to death by a zombie. And you came to YouTube to get some beginner tips. A tale as old as time. Oh, what's that? That's not what happened to you? You just saw something on your recommended that looked interesting? Wow, that's crazy. Anyway, continuing with the premise of the video, let's see if I can give you any advice on mistakes to avoid that will help you survive at least a few days more in 7 Days to Die. And if I succeed, legally, you have to like this video. I don't write the laws, that's just how it is. Anyway, mistake number 1 is not managing your stamina properly, which is a very broad tip of course, so let's get a little more specific. Not managing your attack stamina properly. As a general rule in 7 Days to Die, you probably almost always want to be power attacking with melee weapons, if you can. You do more damage, you get more knockdowns, and usually it's more time and stamina efficient to get kills that way. But you should be very aware that there are wrong times to power attack. You see, when you power attack in 7 Days to Die, it doesn't just cost you more stamina. There's actually another debuff. You will get a delay in your stamina regeneration after you do a power attack. So when you're trying to be very careful with stamina, maybe because you're dehydrated or starving, or you're planning to run away halfway through a fight, light attacks can actually be more efficient for keeping a consistent DPS going that might just barely keep the zombies at bay long enough for you to kill them or find an opening to run. However, if stamina isn't a concern, power attacking is almost always what you want to do. Higher damage means that you can trigger more decapitations, which means you can use a lot less stamina overall, hypothetically. Doesn't always work that way though. Mistake number 2 is not prioritizing your damage perks. Not prioritizing your main melee weapons perks is a big mistake in 7 Days to Die. Not only do they give you more bonus effects like Pummel Pete's knockdown or Deep Cut's bleed effect, they also increase your damage, decrease the amount of stamina you use to swing your weapon, and give you stamina on kill to let you keep attacking for longer. Absolutely, the #1 priority in every game, frankly on any difficulty, should be getting at least a few points in your main melee weapon. It goes without saying, of course, that gun perks are also very good, but I'd say they have slightly less of an impact on the guns than the melee weapon perks have on melee weapons themselves. A really good thing to remember as well is that any point invested into an attribute will actually give you 10% more headshot damage, which, if you're playing correctly, should function as 10% more damage with ranged weapons or melee weapons as long as they're governed by that attribute, so they can be a very cost-effective way to increase a lot of damage types at once. So put your points in your melee weapons, your guns, and your attributes unless you have a very particular plan or build in mind. 90% of people, 90% of the time, just taking more damage perks equals surviving longer. Mistake number 3, not using vending machines. Every trader in the game has 2 vending machines in their compound, and sometimes you'll even find functional ones in the world. Somehow. Don't worry about it. They'll sell you basic canned food, which can help you stave off starvation, and they'll sell you magical candy, which can have effects like giving you 50% more melee damage. The food's pretty cheap and useful, so definitely make use of it if you're new. There's also drinks vending machines that will sell you normal hydrating drinks and more powerful stuff like Grandpa's awesome sauce, which can give you a discount at the traders if you drink it. Now, some of the more experienced players like myself will probably tell you that 7 Days to Die is more fun when you don't play like this, because it nullifies a lot of the challenge in 7 Days to Die, and I don't think people who think that would be wrong, but I also do recognise that a new player can definitely take advantage of this for some much needed assistance in their initial playthroughs, so they can focus on the other aspects of survival. I'd recommend later on though, banning yourself from using them. It really helps 7 Days to Die feel like more of an actual survival game, but you know, do what you want. Milkshake number 4, bad inventory management. The hoarders are going to cook me for saying this one, but it needs to be said. Picking up every loot item you see and dragging it all home isn't actually something to take pride in. It's like if I missed every shot and then was like, I actually do this on purpose. It's just a preference. Moving at 0.1 miles per hour because you want to bring home 7 lead, 3 cornmeal, and a murky water is definitely a preference. Anyway, learn to manage your inventory lest you become a hoarder and start commenting shit like I die a little inside when he leaves lead behind on people's YouTube videos. This is considered terminal Hoarderism. The truth is, that 12 lead in your inventory on day 3 that's slowing you down, useless. Completely useless. You're not going to be using that until you have a forge and a workbench set up and a mountain of gunpowder to make bullets with. By the time you do have all that, your mining capabilities will allow you to dig up 6,000 lead in 5 minutes. So why let it slow down your progress now? Ask yourself this: will I use this in the next 7 days, or is this a rare item I will need later in the game, like a beaker for example? And if the answer is no to both of those, leave it behind. Blue, you should pick up all the time. Acid, you should pick up all the time. Scrap brass, unless you're specifically looking for brass, leave it behind. Same with lead. Scrap iron, you might want to collect a lot of. A lot of things scrap down into iron, and you do always need more iron. Cornmeal, I think we both know you're never really going to use it. And things like scrap polymers are an interesting decision that you probably should pick up, but if you want to keep moving, it's not the worst thing to leave behind. I know it can be hard for a new player to necessarily know every item they'll need, but just keep it in mind as you keep playing to avoid being someone who has actual psychological reactions to seeing someone not pick up a sham sandwich. It's honestly a mental illness. 1 like equals 1 prayer for the hoarders. Mistake 5 is dying to dogs. We have probably all been there. Dogs are, to my mind, the #1 killer of noobs, undefeated 12 years running. Asterisk, I don't remember if dogs were in the initial versions of 7 Days to Die, but you get my point. They're fast, they have fast attacks, and that tends to mean taking more injuries and crits, and they have a weird profile that can make it quite hard to hit the head. And often, they just shrug off your melee attacks without so much as a flinch or a knockdown. So let me give you some pointers on dogs, so that they become the complete non-issue that they are for people like me. #1, gun. Ideally, a pipe machine gun, or really any non-pipe gun, can be used here. It killed them good with a bullet. #2 is going to be awareness. 9 times out of 10, a dog doesn't just appear out of thin air. There are usually warning signs in the level or the world, the biggest of which are these dog cages. If you see one of these, expect a dog. If you don't have a gun, probably run away and come back later. #3 is listening for the dogs. The dogs now have a distinct collar clink sound effect as they run towards you, so if you hear that chain collar sound, start looking for the dog. And #4 is remember that dogs can't climb ladders, so going up a ladder is an excellent way to stay out of harm's way from dogs. And you can build your own ladders on the fly and get onto roofs if you need to. Dogs, with all of those tips, shouldn't be that big of a killer to you anymore. Mistake #6, falling for the Fun Pimp's level design traps. Specifically their favorite level design trap, which I like to call, what if we locked you in a room with 200 zombies and called that gameplay? If you find yourself jumping down or falling down into a room with no other access point into that room and no way to go back up the way you came, you are most likely falling for this trap. In lower level POIs, you'll be fine. That's just to lure you into a false sense of security. In tier 5 POIs, this is how you will die. The Fun Pimps adore this particular level design technique, to the point of it being utterly predictable and boring. It appears in well over half of the tier 5 POIs in the game. So keep your wits about you when you're in those higher level POIs. Are you falling into a room? Are you descending into some chamber with no means of return? That's the Fun Pimps subtly saying, fuck you, in the distance. So you say, fuck you, right back, and find a safer doorway into that room, which will be locked because fuck you, and then you break it down and then you can fight the zombies in a more safe way because fuck them. As you can see, I have such a way with words. Mistake 7 is ignoring cement mixers. They're planning something. I can't prove it, but you have to watch out for them. No, sorry, that's just the voices. The reason you want to pay attention to cement mixers is because they have a very high chance of giving you a Forge Ahead magazine, which are the ones that are used to unlock workstations and are probably the biggest priority for your progression. So always make sure to loot a cement mixer if you see it, and if you can, try to commit POIs with cement mixers to your memory. Make finding Forge Aheads on future playthroughs a way easier affair. Additionally, forges have the same chance, but forges themselves are a much rarer block, so it's not really that big of a deal to remember that. But do remember that all trader compounds have a forge and a cement mixer, so when you do find a trader, there's almost definitely going to be 2 Forge Aheads there waiting for you. Mistake #8 is using vehicles on Horde Night. It sounds like a good idea. Just drive until the sun rises, right? However, create creativity is illegal, and you will be descended upon by the entire United States Air Force in vulture form, and they will somehow rip your 4x4 to shreds. Yes, birds with beaks and talons, ripping apart a steel chassis truck in seconds. I don't understand it either. Number 9 is a weird one, but I'm going to tell you about it anyway, because how else would you know if it doesn't happen to you or nobody else tells you? You're going to want to take water with you to the burned forest. It can even just be murky water. Why? Well, because when you get into a fight with a burnt feral zombie, they actually have a chance to set you on fire, and this can do a lot of damage to you, particularly early on. And this applies to basically any context, by the way, where you'd be near fire. If you're using a lot of Molotov cocktails, or you're running through fire traps because you're a lunatic, when you get set on fire, you can stop the flame effect and the damage simply by using a water item. And actually, murky water is the ideal item for it, because whatever drink item you use, you won't actually get the effects from, it will just put the fire out. So it functionally wastes that item. So ideally, you want to spend a murky water to put the fire out and not a coffee or a forgetting elixir. If you want even more 7 Days to Die tips and tricks, why not check out this video going over combat tips that I wish I knew when I started out in 7 Days to Die. It could save you on even the highest difficulties. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.